Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Bates and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guests, perhaps the greatest special teams player in NFL history, Hank Bauer.
My brother Frankie, how are you, pal?
Hot.
Unbelievable, huh? 103, 104, 105, what is it?
It's been like that for 2 weeks. So,
Well, I tell you what, man, I feel for the firefighters. I see some of these fires going on out there, and it's both sides of 5,
yeah, it's
and windy.
It's got to be amazing for those firemen. I mean, let me ask you: is the fire any hotter in 75 degrees than it is in 105, or is it any hotter at?
Well, the fire ain't hotter, but I mean, if you're operating in that kind of weather, you got a turnout coat on, and man,
I mean,
I really, really have a whole new respect for firefighters out here. When I see just 30 miles of fire, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the wind, it's very windy, especially up. People get the misconception, and I had this misconception before I moved to California. You think California, and you're from the East Coast, you think beaches. That's what you think. You think it's all beaches, sunny surfers in California. It's mountains. This whole state is mountains.
mountains and farmers.
Yeah, so I'm mountains and farmers. You're right. So you're up in that kind of height, and even if it's 100 degrees, it's windy as hell. And these guys are up against it.
Yeah.
But hats off to them, and hope they stay safe.
Hats off to them indeed. Our guest today is perhaps the greatest special teams player in NFL history, Hank Bauer. We'll get to Hank in a few moments. I've known Hank for 40 years. How many people don't I know for 40 years? I think everybody we have on this podcast I've known for 40 years, except for Billy, who I've known for 2.
Yeah, if you haven't known him for 40 years, unfortunately they're deceased. That's pretty much what it is. What is it? My friend called us your podcast. I love your podcast. It's like Johnny Carson, the senior tour.
Yeah,
he says,
Derek Harris. Derek Harris is manning the control booth.
Yes.
How are you, Derek?
Yes, I'm great, guys. Thanks. It's so good to see you. What the actual absolute best thing that has happened today thus far is the segue to the guest announcement. Frank did not interrupt anybody.
I had to stifle the urge to interrupt, though. It occurred to me that we hadn't introduced Hank yet, and I kept saying, okay, now shit, Billy's going to talk and talk and talk, and by the time he's done talking, it'll be time to bring on Hank.
I'm taciturn. I'm terse. I'm a man of few words. Seldom do I say too many syllables.
You went sailing this week, huh?
Yeah, had a good time. My wife, she just got this thing in her head. The worst thing I ever did was take her to the Caribbean. I took her to the Caribbean, and we spent 2 weeks there, and it was great time. But now she's got the Caribbean on her brain, man. That's it. All she wants to do is get a sailboat and go to the Caribbean. So
what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
To win the lottery.
Financial difficulties along the way, little financial difficulties. But I think it's going to happen. I don't know about the Caribbean, man. I keep telling her, look, the Gulf of Mexico is just as good. Because let me tell you, when I used to go to the Caribbean, years ago, a bunch of firemen, we'd rent a cat, we'd go to the Caribbean. And we cost firemen, I wasn't drinking at the time. I'm probably the only guy on the boat that wasn't. But the idea of getting supplies was, let's get 35 cases of beer, 12 cases of rum, and put it on a boat, and then we'll worry about the food later, And rum, it's like $2 a bottle. It's the Caribbean. They're making all that shit out of sugarcane. Now, that ship has sailed. I mean, I went down to the Caribbean, took my wife to the Caribbean, landed on, going to Tortuga or
which
one
one?
of the mountains.
First, second, or third?
Two wives. 2 wives. But I mean, the hamburger's like $35.
Yeah.
They finally got hip to the fact that these guys are. If you're down here on a catamaran, you got money and you're going to pay.
Didn't you tell me a story once about a fireman and a camera?
Oh, yeah. Firemen are ball breakers, and we were on a cat, and it was about 14 of us, and this way, we whack it up for 2 weeks, and maybe it costs $1,000 a piece, renting the boat and everything else. But we're on it. I wasn't drinking. And there's like 14 guys, and they're all heavy boozers, except for one guy, Tommy Martin. Tommy Martin was a chief, and he wasn't drinking either. And so one morning, I guess 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm down below sleeping, and I hear all the farting and the burping and snoring, firemen. And they were drinking all night up till 2 o'clock in the morning. So I said, oh, geez, I got to get out of here. Go up on the deck. The sun was just coming up. And I got up on the deck, and Tommy Martin's up there, and he's got a camera, like one of these $3,000 Nikon cameras. This is maybe 15 years ago. Impressive-looking camera, all the scopes and everything. And he says, look at that rainbow sluicing into the Caribbean. I said, oh, it's gorgeous, man. It's really cool. I said, what's with the camera? You going to take a couple shots of the rainbow? He goes, no, not really. He says, drop your bathing suit. He goes, turn around and let me get a couple of pictures of your ass. I'm a fireman. I really don't give a shit. I moan him, He takes a couple of pictures of my ass. Next morning, same shit. Everybody was up drinking. I get up early. Everybody's snoring, farting, and burping. I go back. I say, here's Martin again with the camera. He goes, I said, what's with the camera? You want to go ashore, take a couple pictures of the island? He goes, no, not really. He goes, drop your bathing suit. Let me get a couple of pictures of your family jewels,
Did he have a microscopic lens?
Zoom. So again, I dropped my pants, and I said, Tommy, I don't really give a shit. It makes no difference to me. But what is it with you and this camera? I said, that's all you've been doing this whole trip, Bob's balls, Joe's junk, Andy's ass. What are you doing with this camera? That's all you've been doing. He goes, oh, this ain't my camera. He goes, it's Lonigan's. He goes, last year he married a nun. He goes, I can't wait till she develops these pictures. What the hell kind of a trip were you on anyway? But I tell you, we're in the Caribbean, and one morning, and this again, because I wasn't drinking, I'm down below at about 5:45 in the morning. I hear this real weird noise, an eerie noise, like, oh. And being Irish, I said, that sounds like an Ilian pipe, like an Ilian piper. So I go up on board, and we're on like a 35-foot cat, a big catamaran. And I think we were off the coast of St. Martin. We were anchored off of St. Martin. I look over, and it's like an 18-foot wooden sailboat, an old wooden sailboat. It looks like a rowboat with a sail on it. You wouldn't sail it around a lake.
Looked like the African Queen.
Exactly. And there's a guy aboard, and he's playing the Ilian pipes. Now, Ilian pipes are like an Irish instrument that make the bagpipes look modern. It's really a weird instrument. So my girlfriend at the time was a fiddler, and I yelled out to him. I said, hey, pal. I said, my girlfriend tells me there's only 4 Ilian pipers in the whole United States. And he says, and I would know them all. He says, I would know them all. And I says, you weren't here last night when we dropped anchor. He goes, no, I sailed in this morning from Spain. I says, you sailed that thing across the Atlantic? Oh, yeah. He said, I'm going to stay a few hours and then I'm going back. I said, you kidding me? Now, we think we're sailors. We got GPSs. We got like automatic anchors. You press a button, the anchor goes down, it comes up. And we think we're like, firemen with big sailors. This guy took this 18-foot wooden boat. So I says to him, you crossed the Atlantic by yourself? Yeah. Do you have any trouble? I had to climb the mast a couple of times during the night. He says, but other than that, no problem. I'm like, wow, man. I mean, tough men, man.
Tough men. Speaking of tough men, what a segue.
Wow.
That's a perfect segue to go to Hank Bauer.
Tough men.
Tough men.
Hard men.
Hard men is correct. Hey, Derek, can you get him on, please?
Yes.
Henry, how are you, my friend? What?
Well, you wake up and you go, is this really my 47th NFL season coming up?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, I hate to start our conversation, I don't want to say in a down note, but maybe it should be a celebratory kind of way. But we lost another great one this week. A guy that I got to coach with alongside, and a guy I got to play for, Ernie Zampese. passed away. Had a great life. Lived to 89.
Yep, Zep was.
But gosh darn it, my friends, Billy, you know this. Life is so fragile and so fast and so precious, and it's just a constant reminder. And you get to this age, and I'm losing teammates, and I'm losing coaches, and it's every week, you know. But you know, I cried a little bit, and then I started laughing, thinking about all the great times with Ernie and Coach Coryell and playing for Joe Gibbs and all the greatness that I was so blessed to be able to touch.
Well, you're an amazing person, that's for sure. You were once described as a 5'10.5" 205-pound bowling ball gone berserk.
A bowling ball gone berserk.
Yeah, appropriate.
Man, I tell you, I was doing research on you, and I knew who you were, but when I started doing the research, I was like, you got to be, I couldn't believe it. How do you play 6 games with a broken neck? How does that happen?
Well, actually, it was 7, but who's counting? You know? Well, it was a different era back then. That was 1982, 83, 1982. And, you know, they did, look at it, the way medicine was done back then was different than it is today. That would have never happened in today's world. You know, they didn't have MRIs back then. So neck injuries were, you know, look at if you could handle the pain and you could medicate. Okay,
Something Billy never did.
I did a lot of medication. I didn't wait for the broken neck. I just did the medication.
And you were willing. And I gotta be honest. You know, I'm not stupid. You know, they did an X-ray and they said, oh, you got this move group compression deal, and if you can handle the pain, you know, I don't think anything's going to be worse for wear. So I medicated, and I got to be honest, I don't remember not one play of the last 7 games of my career. And I actually, when I went right into coaching the next year with Coach Coryell and Ernie and the guys, I went back and looked at the game tapes to see how I did. I actually played pretty well.
Well,
and I thought to myself, I should have been medicating.
Well, your last 3 years, you were voted NFL Special Teams Player of the Year. Could you imagine if you remembered those games?
Oh God, I might not have played as well.
I got to touch on this because I mean you light up every time you talk about the medication. And I'm a big medication guy. I was big on preventive medicine. I would have been taking it to prevent it. What? I mean, was this stuff hanging around the locker room? I mean, was this you getting it? Were they prescribing it for you? Or
good question.
Billy, I have no comment at this time.
Are we talking ups? We talking downs? We talking sideways? What are we talking here? Painkillers,
injections?
Well, you know, it was pain relief.
Right. So painkillers, like.
The end.
We won't get into specifics. I don't need any names.
Okay, I'll say this. It was nothing. Well, yeah, I didn't even know what I took that was prescribed. But in the locker room back then, we had these things called Supacs. They were like horse aspirins. They were like that big. They were like tablets. And each one was supposedly something like 2 cups of coffee and 4 aspirin.
Whoa.
So it was like, you could call it whatever you want to call it. Analgesic, caffeine, ups, whatever you want to call it. I got to where I was, before the injury, I was taking like 12 of them.
Per game?
Okay, you got me in territory I didn't want to go to. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, but I mean,
but that was, I figured if 2 is good, hell, 12's got to be better.
It's the way I always thought. If a bottle of scotch makes you happy, 2 bottles of scotch got to make you terrifically happy.
Hey, by the way, Billy, you were in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
Got to mention my good friend Rod Marinelli. You know his story, don't you guys?
I don't think so.
To hear it.
Why don't you tell it?
You don't know Rod Marinelli's story? Why don't you introduce Rod Marinelli as you know him?
Okay.
Do you know him?
No, I don't know.
No, I don't know.
You tell us.
Well, Rod Marinelli just retired from, I don't know, 30 years of coaching in the NFL, last with the Raiders in Vegas a couple years ago, or last year, I think he retired, and was a head coach in the NFL, longtime defensive coordinator. In the first great Tampa Bay run, he was their defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. He was also my my college starting left tackle and blocked for me for a couple of years.
At Cal Lu?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason he went to Cal Lutheran, because he grew up in East LA, and coming out of high school, this is back at the end of the 60s. Growing up in East LA, Rod was the very last guy to get a lottery number for the draft to Vietnam. The last one, and guess what number he got?
128.
He got something like, I don't know the exact, he got something like 8 or something. So coming out of high school, he had a ride, he had some D1 offers. He was a short, stocky offensive tackle. Short. Like 5'9" short, but obviously a killer and a great, smart, toughest guy I've ever been around. And so Rod gets this. He's engaged, and he's going to marry his high school sweetheart, and he's going to go to, I think it was Utah or Utah State had offered, and Rod, instead of being assigned, he joins the Army. He enlists because he knows he's going. He's number 5 or 8 or 12 or whatever it was. He's going to Vietnam. And so he joins the Army in typical Rod fashion, becomes a sergeant, and in typical Rod fashion, goes and does. Billy, you know what tunnel rats did?
I knew you were going to say it. I swear to God, I knew you were going to say it. I said,
tell people what a tunnel.
If he was the toughest guy you ever met, I said, just don't tell me he ended up a tunnel rat, because I knew that's where you were going to go. I swear to God.
And what's it?
Tell people what a tunnel rat is, Billy.
A tunnel rat is a guy when the Vietnamese had all the tunnels and everything where they were all living, and they'd go in and flush them out. These guys go in by themselves where they're living and flush these guys out, right? I swear to Christ, and this is true as God. When I'm in a bar or something like that, and somebody tells me, "Oh, you were in Nam?" No kidding. So we start talking. What'd you do over there? I was a tunnel rat. Well, listen, nice talking to you. I take my drink and I'm out the door, man, because I know any minute this guy is, you're looking at a keg of TNT ready to explode. What these guys went through psychologically is unbelievable. Right? I mean, this guy, Rod Marinelli, Jesus.
Well, here's the thing, and so he comes back out of Vietnam. He survives it. He survives it, comes out, wants to play college football, has, he's lost weight. He's probably 175 pounds down from 225. Back then it was a different game. They were smaller. And so, the offers weren't there. And so he found a great place to play football, which was Cal Lutheran. And he played and won a national championship, started alongside, believe it or not, my big brother, who was a left guard, Rob was a left tackle. And they won a national championship. Brian Kelly from the Giants was the starting middle linebacker, also an All-American. Wow. And they had a group of guys. It was unbelievable. They had 3 guys, 2 guys that played in the NFL, Brian Kelly and Ralph Miller, the tight end from the Oilers, and then Sam Sionovich, who won Rookie of the Year, Shinley Award winner for the Toronto Argonauts, all played on those teams. And then Rod played, and then I played 2 years with Rod, and then he went on to this incredible, great coaching career and is retired now. I don't know how the hell I got to talking about Rod.
Well, I just talked about Vietnam, but I mean, as soon as you said the toughest guy you ever met, I said, I didn't want to know this guy.
And Rod, he would never talk about it. He would never talk about it. Scary. He'd just look at you and you say, "Oh, nice talking to you, Rod. I got something I got to go do." And just as genuine, as gentle, quiet, but you could see in his eye, like,
that he saw some shit.
Hey, look, this is exactly why you never flip anybody off when you're driving.
Yep. you never know where they've been.
Because that guy might look like just a normal person, but he might have been a tunnel rat, like Rod Marinelli.
Yep. You know what? I always had semi-nightmares about, because I was in the saloon business for a while. I had a couple of big bars, And, whenever there's a fight, you got to jump the bar, you got to take care of things, break it up. And my big nightmare was, what if I run into a guy like Roberto Duran? He's 5'6". You say, no problem. I'm going to throw this guy through the door. You can hit 9 times before you know what happened. Yeah, but tunnel rat.
Well, last week we had a 9/11, a show about 9/11, and Billy was a 20-year fire vet and a first responder at 9/11 as well. And I asked Richie Ailes, what makes, when other people run away from fire, what makes you guys run to it? And what was your answer? Training.
Just kicks in and you don't really think about it. It's your job.
Wait a minute. Wait. Okay. It's the moment of truth. I always call that the moment of truth. Okay. When you want to find out about yourself and you're an NFL player, not so much now, but back when I played, when you would run full speed on a kickoff, you're running for 40 yards as fast as you can at top speed, and here come 4 guys right at you that all weigh about, between 250 and 300 pounds. Okay? Are you going to find a way to miss just a little bit, a glancing blow, maybe deflect a little bit, or are you going to go in head first? That is your moment of truth.
Well, like special team players, they're like firefighters.
No question.
You train to go straight in.
I'll tell you what. Did you grow up? Hey, what's your aspiration? Oh, I want to cover kickoffs. I want full speed in a 300-pound men. It just happened, and I loved it.
Well,
Did you ever think of going professional wrestling? You're so buoyant.
No.
You're so buoyant. You're so expressive.
Well, I got to ask you, 52 tackles, right, on special teams.
That's an NFL record that will never be broken. Because I think number 2 is 28.
Amazing, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and the guy that led the league last year, I think, had 19. Not that I'm following. but I'm still in the business. 47 years later.
I think your record is well safe for, like I said, never be broken. What was the secret? I mean, did you have a quick start? I mean, we just reckless abandon.
Billy, you don't grow up saying I'm going to run into fires. You don't grow up thinking as a kid, hey, I'm going to take a pistol and bayonet and I'm going to crawl around in tunnels in Vietnam. It just happens, and people ask, well, how did you develop this skill to see and adjust and adapt and make plays that nobody else has ever made or could make? And I said, it was just like it was like a summation of all of my life experiences athletically. And I got great coaching in high school from guys like Steve Iverson and Boogie Carrillo. And I was a nose tackle in Orange County, all Orange County nose tackle. So I learned all of the defensive maneuvers, how to get off of blocks. I learned the butt and jerk. I learned the swim. I learned, the arm under. I learned all of these great defensive techniques, from great coaching. Then I became a running back in college, and I tried to learn to make people miss. I wasn't great at making people miss, but good enough. And so you learn open field stuff. And then I fell in love with Brian Kelly, that son of a bitch. Got me into rugby. Okay, Brian Kelly, my big brother, we all played rugby. And if you know anything about rugby, it's just open field. It's no pads. It's open field tackling. And I was able to see ball movements, and you develop like a sixth sense, and everything's open field tackling. So you add all of those things together, and I was this creature that was really developed, and all of a sudden you go, hey, that really works for the NFL playing special teams. I got all these unique skills that I developed. And it's not like you aspire to that. You know what I mean? Gary Carter and I grew up together. The Hall of Fame catcher.
Sure.
We grew up in the same area. In fact, in the Orange County All-Star game our senior year, I was the catcher and he was the shortstop. God rest his soul. One of my favorite people of all time. The greatest, most Christian, best person I've ever come across. Right? And my first love was baseball. And I played a couple years in college, and then I said, this rugby thing is really fun, and football, I really loved hitting people. I went, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll just give it a shot, and if I don't make it, I'll get on with my life.
Yeah, well, you got on with your life so well that none other than Don Coryell, who should go into the Hall of Fame this year, said you were the best he's ever seen.
Wow.
Well, that's high praise indeed.
How do you like Don's chances this year? I mean, he should have been in several years back, but he was a great coach.
Well, he's the only one on the list now for that, from what I was told. I'm not an expert, I'm not a voter, but he's the only one on the list for that particular designation, I think. So from what I've been told, he's got an outstanding chance, and he should be there. Think about the guys that he started. Think about the guys that Don Coryell started. When he was up in junior college up in Santa Maria, and then Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, he gave guys jobs. He started some guy named John Madden. That's right, that guy. He gave John Madden his first job. Joe Gibbs played for him at San Diego State. And Joe, of course, was our offensive coordinator. Another really good Christian guy. He would just look at me and shake his head, because I like to say that.
So, Hank, do you think?
Let him finish on Don.
I'm sorry.
No, and so, to me, the Hall of Fame, it's voted on by a bunch of people that, a lot of them are really super qualified, and I think there are people that maybe aren't so much, that weren't as close to the game, and maybe a bit biased or unknowledgeable, but it's the impact and influence of the game, right? Yeah. Who's impacted the game? Well, the teams, almost all the teams are running on offense now, or derivatives thereof.
Air Coryell, Fouts to Joyner to Chandler.
Yeah, well,
Winslow.
Yeah, well, we started it all. We started it all. All of the mismatches, all the pre-snap reads, all the shifting, all the personnel groupings. Hell, there was no nickel defense before Air Coryell. The Raiders used to play exclusively man-free coverage. You know what that is? Yeah. Okay, man-free coverage. Okay, so we drafted this kid named Kellen Winslow, pretty good athlete, 6'5", ran like a deer. He's a wide receiver in an offensive tackle's body. And with running back skills, Kellen, Don said, Don had a little list. We go, oh hell, let's flip Kellen out. We hang out that. Oh Jesus! And then we'll put him in motion. Then what are they going to do? Then we can tell what the coverage is. And what if we play Eric Sievers and 2 tight ends and take out the fullback? So we started playing Kellen and splitting him out. And the Raiders would try to cover him with a linebacker because they're playing man coverage. And then they'd change it up and try to cover him with a strong safety. And that wasn't going to happen either. So what did they do? Brought in an extra corner. Welcome to the NFL, nickel defense. Yep. And then we started doing 3 or 4 wide receivers in Kellen. Welcome to the dime defense, 6 defensive back, 7 defensive back. So you go back, and Coryell's influence is so it's so wide spread in the NFL, even in today. A lot of the things, all of the things, really had a foundation. Bill Walsh's offense, all of it had a foundation with Don.
Well, it definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame without a doubt. But do you think, inadvertently, Air Coryell, Don Fouts, the amount of scoring they did led to your individual record of 52. They scored so much that you were always coming down the field.
Billy, don't be a smart ass. Okay?
No, that's
First of all, Billy, if we're scoring, we're not punting.
Right. That's what Billy said it from a good standpoint. You were kicking off so many times. That's
you had the chance to make that record because you were over.
Yeah, and you know what I used to love too, and I still love it to this day. All of my buddies that are, I see all my old teammates. I go, and they needle me, and I go, you know what? what's the one play in the NFL? What's one play in football that everybody starts at the same time? It has an equal chance to make a play. It's a kickoff. We all line up. I go, why was this 4-6, 4-7 guy, the first one down, all the 4-4s had their butts puckered and were finding ways to just not quite make the tackle?
Yeah.
You know?
They were just
or just didn't quite want to get to that wedge first.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't want to be the first one in, Billy. They didn't want to hit the sand. They didn't want to hit the beaches.
Well,
you know,
in addition,
they were coming in second wave.
In addition to being a great special teams player, you are also a great short yardage running back. I mean, one year you carried 22 times, had 8 touchdowns, and converted on 9 first downs. That's 17 out of 22 carries.
Wow.
It was actually 18 carries. I know the number. It was 17 out of 18 or whatever it was. You know, the most thing people ask, what are you proudest of? And honestly, I'm proud that not the honors, and I'm not saying it wasn't important, but standing up the night before the Super Bowl in front of all the owners, next to Lawrence Taylor, getting one of the 12 Player of the Year awards, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That is.
But you know what? It doesn't mean, I swear, it doesn't mean as much to me as when I got voted captain by my teammates and coaches. That to me was the greatest honor that could have ever been bestowed upon me, and I'm more thankful for that than anything else. And you know, the other thing I'm proud of in my career, I didn't ask to cover kickoffs. I didn't ask to be the short yardage back. One year I started, averaged almost 4 yards a carry, scored 9 touchdowns. You know, so I'm proud that in every role they asked me to do, I did my best. I left it all out there. I walked away from the game with my head held high, knowing that I had nothing left to give, and I have no regrets. And in everything they did, I was honorable to my teammates, my coaches, and the fans and everything, that I left it all out there. And every role they asked me, I just did my best, and it turned out pretty good.
Turned out pretty good indeed.
Talk about versatility, but you mentioned that the versatility coming up, not intending to be a special teams player, but that helped you so much. You were called, and I love this quote about you. They called you the Swiss Army knife of players, because you do it all, and they put you anywhere, and you give all you had.
You know why, Billy? You know why? Because I like to eat. Okay. You're gonna find a role, and the first thing I learned was, the more things you can do, the more valuable you are in any company, in any walk of life. You know, the more things you can do, work hard, be a good teammate, keep your frickin' mouth shut, don't make waves, be a team player. You know, do what people ask and learn, and don't stop learning. Man, I had a thirst for the game. I would sit in meetings. I would go to other position meetings. I couldn't get enough.
Well, let me ask you, did you ever beat Sid Brooks in backgammon?
That depends on who you talk to.
Oh, well, you know, I remain close. I'll tell Sid Brooks was the longtime equipment manager of the San Diego Chargers. And,
right.
And that's how I got
Doc. You're a good doc.
The good doc. And that's how I got Hank and a bunch of others into Pony's shoes, because one day we were at a sporting goods convention and I went into a bathroom and I was in a stall and I heard these 2 Nike guys taking a leak. And one guy was talking to the other guy and he said, "I just had breakfast with Sid Brooks. We own him." And I was in the stall. So I said, "Sid," when I ran into him, I said, "I heard you had breakfast with Nike." He said, "How'd you hear that?" And I said, "Well," I told him the story. He said, "Own me, huh? We'll see if they own me." And then I went in and he said, "Come into the locker room the next day," because then we had access to the locker rooms anytime we wanted. And then I got Hank and little Charlie Joyner and Big Hands Johnson and a whole bunch of guys. And he says, "Take that, Nike."
Whoa.
Oh yeah, that was back when they were paying. You were paying big money, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We never got paid.
Yeah.
But we got
And you got the
Did you see the
shirts.
shock on my face?
and you got shirts. And you got warm-ups.
Can I just say, I'm so happy for the guys in today's game that are making what they're making.
Yep.
And the coaches, because if they weren't, look, if they're getting what we went on strike for in 1982, and that was assistant player rep. They're getting a percentage of the growth. So if the owners are making it, why not the players get their fair share?
That's what I say. Actually,
yeah, and so back in the day, people said, "Well, gosh," and then meet you today, go, "Oh, you played, you got 7 years in and 4 years of coach, and now you're in your 47th year. Now you're broadcast. You must be rich." Let me tell you what I made as a player: $20,000 my first year. 25,000, scored 9 touchdowns my second year. 8 touchdowns, whatever it was, 9 touchdowns. 40,000 scored 8 touchdowns that year. And then 2-time player of the year, most I ever made was 85,000. Dan Fouts never made over 800,000 in 1 year. Now, again, I'm happy for the money that the guys are making. They deserve it, because without the players, there is no game. But I got to be honest, they really gave us a nice bump on our pension this last CBA, and I'm very grateful to the NFL and to the current players and the Players Association, because all I want to do now at this point is let us die with some dignity, Yeah. And they did a really good thing. So, but it can be better. It should be better, but it's getting there.
Well, look at the NBA. My good friend Artis Gilmore. They don't get credit for ABA years. The NBA merged with the ABA, and they still don't get credit for ABA years they played in the NBA.
Oh, but why should they, Frank? I mean, why should they? Because it wasn't. It'd be like saying the WFL back in the day. Why should the NFL pay for their part of the pension?
Well, because they paid into the plan, and
oh, they did.
Yeah. They
yeah.
So the difference between the WFL and the ABA is the ABA was absorbed by the NBA, and
okay, yeah, those guys should be getting some money.
Yeah,
come on.
So they don't get it. I mean, artists got it, but all the guys in the ABA that only played in the ABA never got anything from the NBA until.
By the way, going back to the pony shoes.
Yeah.
I mentioned the salaries and all that stuff because
I think we gave you guys $1,000 or $2,000.
Oh, the royalties still coming in from Pony.
Operative word there, Billy. I think. Yeah. Well, I think you did. You were great, Frank. And let me tell you, you could have given me Lady Pumas to wear to get a shoe deal because nobody was getting them back then. So, Frank, I really appreciate it. You started a great thing for players.
Well, thank you.
He's waiting for the shoe to drop now.
We joke, and I told Derek that Hank and I would pick up like we left off in 1984, but we literally, I literally haven't talked to Hank since 1984.
Holy crap!
Are you kidding me? Really?
No.
Wow.
But I knew we started following each other on Facebook, and Sid Brooks was a very close. Sid Brooks was the equipment manager of the Chargers, and he had been in the Air Force prior to that. He retired with honors from the Air Force. He retired from the San Diego Chargers after 20 years, and then he came up to L.A. and he became the equipment manager of the USC football team, and he was also a bit of a ham.
A bit.
And and I used his daughter in head of the class as a stand-in, and I guess we used him in head of the class as a speaking role, something Wilder as a speaking role, the movie Babe Ruth as a speaking role, with Stephen Lang played Babe, and he was a porter in Babe's hotel, and he walks in. Babe puts down the bags. He goes, "Thank you, Doc." He called Doc by his name, and Sid got the greatest charge out of that. He probably
Sidney Marie Brooks.
Huh?
Yeah. Sidney Marie Brooks.
Sidney Marie Brooks unfortunately passed away when he slipped in a sauna and he hit his head.
But ask him if you'd have ever asked him if he had ever lost a domino game.
No dominoes or no backgammons.
No, he's never lost anything. Just ask. Those were wars back then. I got to tell you a story. This is great. At Cal Lu, where the Rams are.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing campus in Thousand Oaks, California, north of LA, south of Ventura. Frank, you've been up there.
Yeah.
If you've not been up there, make a drive by sometime. It's one of my favorite spots on the planet. But the Cowboys trained there, obviously, for years, way back when. And now the Rams, the current Rams, are on the campus. Frank, you remember the campus?
Yep.
They're right. The Rams complex, their training place has been right under what used to be the CLC, now it's CLU.
Yep.
Right there off our practice fields. That's where the Rams go to work every day and have since they moved back to LA, right? And so, see, here's a senior moment. I forgot where this story was taking me.
Well, I tell you, you're sharp as hell, brother. You're a lot sharper than I am, but we all have senior moments, but you're bam.
There's the wedge effect coming in for you.
Well, that brings up a point.
No, but going back to Cal Lu. Oh, here's what it was. There was a guy when I was playing baseball there, Ron Stillwell. Remember Ron Stillwell played for the Center?
Yep.
He was my college baseball coach.
Of course.
Isn't that crazy?
Of course.
Now it gets even crazier. Guess who lived right across the street from our baseball field, literally within 400 yards?
Gary Carter. That would have been too much.
Sparky Anderson.
Sparky Anderson.
George.
That would have been a logical guess also.
Right? So Sparky and Ron were great friends. So Sparky would come over and work with us. Think about going to little Cal Lutheran, and in the summertime, I had the tough job of the college lifeguard at the pool. But we had the John Wooden basketball camps. I'd go in the cafeteria, sit down. Hey, Coach, how you doing? Have breakfast with Coach Wooden. Wow. No big deal, right? You don't even understand until later in life how blessed you are, right?
Yep.
And then Sparky would come over and work with us, right? I'm getting to my story, you guys. And so, I got cut from the Cowboys my first year on my birthday, but I've let it.
By the way, you taught as a high school teacher for a year. What might that have been like?
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up making it with the Chargers, and I'm there, and I'm keeping my mouth shut and my head down, right? The second year, now I'm starting, and things are happening. I got invited to play in the domino game with little Charlie and Dan and Sidney Marie Brooks. Well, the baseball locker rooms, the Padres were over here, the visiting team's there, and the Chargers locker room was right there in the middle. So you go down through a tunnel and walk right by our locker room. Well, the Reds were in town to play the Padres, and I'm playing dominoes, and I'm keeping my mouth shut like all young players should, respectful. Sparky walks in his uniform, and he goes, "Henry, congratulations! I'm so proud of you." And Fouts and these guys all look, and they go, "What the? Like, Sparky knows this guy, and I know." And so I got a little cred. It was my first little bit of cred in the locker room. But again, you go,
I'll tell you a quick Sparky Anderson story. I represented Rod Carew for 38 years. And one day, Sparky and Rod and I were flying home from a card show in New Jersey. And it was maybe 2 or 3 months after 9/11. So we go through the security system. I got through, no problem. Rod got through, surprisingly, with no problem. And then Sparky didn't get through, and they strip searched Sparky. So here we are in 2001. The black Panamanian guy got through, but Sparky was strip searched. I never forgot it.
Have you ever met a more genuine, down to earth?
No.
Sparky. I haven't either. For all of his greatness, Gary was like that too. But Sparky was so salt of the earth. You talk to him and you think, God, this guy is like a guy that's working at the gas station, right? Without no disrespect to, a guy that
regular guy.
Yeah, just the most regular guy,
And I say this as a compliment now. Sparky and Hank at 35 looked the way they look now.
Get out of here.
Well, take your hat off.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the way Hank looked then. And Sparky was prematurely gray. At 35, he was all gray, and he looked at 70 the way he looked at 35, as Hank does now. You are.
Yeah, I had MPB hit me at age 21.
MPB,
male pattern baldness.
Male pattern baldness. So I got to ask you about a couple things. I got to ask you about the greatest game ever played in Miami, 41-38. What do you recall about that game?
Oh, I could talk about that game for hours. Obviously, everybody talks about Kellen getting carried off, his amazing performance. The ups and downs, jumping out to the big league, all this. You know what I remember? I remember everybody jumping on Rolf, our kicker, Benerska, for making the game-winning field goal. And I'm looking over and I'm seeing Ed White is laying on the ground and he can't get up. He's cramped. He's beaten. He's done. And I'm going, wait a minute. This is everything that's wrong with football. Everybody's celebrating this kicker who was earlier just a 20, like a 30-yarder, backed it left, or we wouldn't even been in double overtime. Okay, and now they're celebrating him, and poor Ed White and all of our fat guys are getting carried off the field. That's what I remember.
That's funny. I remember they said the same thing about Premian when he kicked the field goal. I kicked the touchdown.
Yeah,
I kicked the touchdown.
Well, Billy's got memories. Says like
this is no disrespect to Rolf, whose story is. If you ever read anything about Rolf Benerska,
oh yeah, for sure.
Pardon me?
Yeah, for sure. I knew Rolf.
Yeah, well, you need to get Rolf on. You need to do something with Rolf. He's written 3 books. His story, what he overcame, is spectacular.
Really?
Diverticulitis or something like that.
Okay, yeah, but let's just call it what it is, Frank Billy. He's a kicker.
Yeah.
I was looking and people say, I was with Rolf, we had gone up to Charger training camp together, and I'm looking at him going, man, you pissed me off. Number one, you grew up in La Jolla, so you can afford plastic surgery. Okay. Number two, you're a kicker. And so somebody came up to us at Charger practice training camp and said, hey, Rolf, man, you really look good. Hey, Hank. And I grabbed the son of a bitch and I go, this is the difference between after the ball's kicked, running down the field and him running off the field.
Totally.
So that's your great memory is hugging Hank and Ed White on the field.
Oh,
that's Billy's got some memories of that game too. Why don't you tell
I
us
was
about
a bookmaker at the time. I tell you what, that game was. That game, I think it opened up, if I remember correctly, Miami opened up as a 2-point favorite, and all I was doing was writing Miami tickets, Miami. And I said, why is this line not going up to 3.5? What's going? Everybody's betting Miami. And then I called up a shop office in Brooklyn. The line was going the other way. It went down to 1. I said, what's going on? A lot of smart money was on San Diego, but the big money, all the money was coming in on Miami. Bookmakers cleaned up on that game. They cleaned up on that game. Let me ask you a question about, do you think the game, and no reflection on the way you played it. You think it's gotten softer, a little softer?
You realize I'm still broadcasting games on national radio with Sports USA and Larry Kahn.
Okay, so let me ask you the question in another way. Ronnie Lott had his finger taken off in a game so he could go back in. Do you think he would be playing today in that game?
Ronnie Lott would be playing, yeah.
Well,
I'd be playing with a broken neck too.
Yes, but
they would not allow you to play in today's game.
That's what I meant.
Because again, there's so much money and so much at stake, and there's such a huge investment by the owners, and unfortunately live in such a litigious legal liability society that nobody would allow that to happen. So things that happened then don't happen now. The game is still a great game. It's the best game for TV ever invented. It's perfect with the timeouts.
Agreed.
It's stout. It's exciting. These athletes are bigger. They're faster. Well, I don't know if you could say they're fast. How fast can
a one man run?
Can you be faster than Willie Gault? I mean, fast is fast. Harry Kill's the fastest guy in the league, by the way, that I've seen. Yeah. They made it safer for guys because of the legal ramifications after the fact. The Players Associations, they want to extend guys' careers, extend their income earning potential, as it were. When you're making 20 grand, you don't give a crap about that, obviously, by the way. I can go back and teach school, but could have gone back and taught school for $13,000 at the time. Wow. So, I mean, I will say this, across the board, we played for the love of the game. Money was important, but it wasn't the deciding factor, because it wasn't.
You had to play for the love of the game, because the week after you played in Miami at like 80 degrees,
oh God,
you played in a freezer bowl at 55 years old. Well, our good friend Kenny Anderson was on the other team, and you had to be playing for the love of money at 55 degrees below. I mean,
it was 59 wind chill.
59 below
but
zero.
At that point, who's counting?
Yeah, because the week before had to take so much out of you guys, and you only had a week between games. I would have liked to see you play that on a neutral field with 2 weeks rest, because I think you would have kicked the crap out of Cincinnati.
It's our fault for not getting home field advantage.
Yep.
And Cincinnati beat us. I'm making no excuses. They deserved it, and they earned it, and they beat us. And it's nothing but conjecture. Now, we did play them on a Monday night game the next year. How'd that work out? In San Diego.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
you brought up a good point. You said it was your fault because you didn't have home field advantage. That's what you play. Right. That's what you play for. That's what you play the early games for. Let me ask you, do you remember your hardest you were ever hit?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. One of the first times I was going to play in the LA Coliseum, which is a big deal, right, against the Rams. And because, it's not far from where I grew up in Orange County, close to Thousand Oaks where I went to college, right? And it was against the Rams. Got a bunch of tickets for my family and friends and my big brother and everybody. And pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Well, I had an agent who had the same client by the name of Tom Mack. Would you care to tell people who Tom Mack was?
A big 6'6", a lot.
6'5",
from Michigan.
Yeah, from Michigan. He's an All-Pro.
Yep.
He might be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure.
I think he is.
And we had the same agent. This is what really pissed me off. Okay, we had the same agent. I knew Tom. We went out in the off season a couple of times. Tom was in the wedge. You know what the wedge is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm covering a kickoff, and I know what they're going to do. They're going to run a cross block, right? So I see it coming, But the one thing you don't want to do is you see it coming and look at the guy to let him know that you see it coming, right? So I baited him. Tom Mack was sitting over there, right, on the wing. He was going to come in and blindside me, right? So I'm running down the field. I don't look at him. I bait him right before he gets to me. I put the brakes on. He does a flyby. I've got a beeline to the returner now. I'm going to make the biggest hit in the history of football in front of my entire family in the world. Tom Mack circles around. I never see him coming. Puts it right in my ear hole. The first thing that hits the ground is that he hit me on the left side of my temple. The right side of my head hit the ground. Got completely flipped over. I'm in front of there. I get up. I fall down. I get up. I get helped. No fucking way I'm getting carried off. I'm staggering. I have no idea who I am, where I am. And all I remembered was 70,000 people going, ooh. The next thing I swear to God I remember, we're on the bus back to San Diego. Think about it, that's like 3 hours. I lost 3 hours of my life because of frickin' Tom Mack, my friend. And I'm sitting in the bus next to the team doctor, and I look out and I go, oh, Samuel Capistrano. I wonder if the Swallows are here. And he looks at me and goes, welcome back. It's been 3 hours.
Wow. Well, obviously, I mean, some of these new rules are to protect players like yourself, especially guys like you that played like a kamikaze. I mean, from brain damage. I mean,
but I'm sorry. You finished the game though, right?
Oh no!
Oh,
no.
You had to come out.
Yeah, I don't remember.
You didn't remember?
I know they told me I didn't play.
Okay, but you said you didn't remember the last 7 games you played in 1983. So I just was wondering if.
Well, that was a chemical issue. That was a pain issue. That was not an injury issue.
So I mean, would you say that this, this, what is it called? CTE is
real.
CTE,
real.
Brain damage, right? Is that pretty much what it is? I mean, have they succeeded in preventing that from being an ongoing problem? Or
I'm not an expert. The NFL has been spectacular. You saw those funny things that they put on their helmets in training camp this year. It's repetitive blows to the head causes CTE, and really we're at the tip of the iceberg finding out about this life-taking disease. My little brother, Junior Seau, had it, and it's real. It's sorry.
No, I understand. The suicide is
it's real. I've lost a lot of good friends, and a lot of good friends have lost touch with the world because of it. So, yeah, it's real. They're working towards handling it as good a pace as they can. So,
do you think that you have it?
The only way to find out is cut your brain open, and I'm not going to.
Nobody's going to do that yet.
I can tell you certainly don't seem like you have it. You're sharp as any guy we've ever talked to. So it doesn't seem like you have it.
You see me when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I did.
Like 67.
I did. How you hitting them?
The body. It depends on the day. The body, play a little. I play golf probably 4 days a week now. I love it. You can control your own environment, who you want to be around. There's nothing more relaxing than nature, and there's nothing more that ruins beautiful nature than a bad golf swing. Okay, or a bad golf game. But it's a spectacular sport. I shot anywhere in the. Here's all you need to know about golf is in the last week I've shot a high of 87 and a low of 75.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's good. You're playing a lot better than when I played with you. Yeah,
but I'm playing the white tees.
Oh,
I'm not.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about anybody circling around and sticking it in your ear either.
Hey, it's funny you say that. The guy I play with, Tommy, I'm way out in front of him. We take separate carts. I'm like literally 190 yards, 100 yards to his left, 190 yards from him, and because he had topped the shank, gacked his tee shot. So I'm up there by my ball on the left side of the fairway. He's way out in the woods on the right. He doesn't yell. He hits the ball, hits me right in the back of the head. But the worst part is, I read him the right. I said, dude, it's not that hard to yell 4.
Yeah.
The worst part is, he does it the next day again. Hits me in the head.
Well, now
I'm not driving in front of people anymore.
There you go. Because you say you don't have CTE, but you did do that 2 days in a row. Drive ahead of him. You must have a death wish.
Well, Hank made golf a contact sport. He managed to make it a contact sport.
Hey, Hank, can you give us a rundown of how you think the NFL season is going to go this year?
Whew, man. The NFL is so adeptly built.
Yeah.
Because of the way they sequence the draft, worst teams get the best picks, right?
Yeah.
The way free agency works, salary caps, all that stuff. It's all designed to bring the bad teams closer to the good teams, right? Because parity is paramount in the NFL. That's what the NFL has always wanted. And that's always been one of the secrets, the old adage, on any given Sunday.
Yep.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautifully designed. Every year you see surprises. I mean, you don't see teams winning anymore, especially with free agency and the way salary caps are manipulated. So we can all pick the teams going in. Well, the Rams are going to be good. The 49ers are going to be. By the way, I got the 49ers in Seattle on national radio week 2.
Great.
Up in San Francisco on Sports USA. The Niners have a chance, right?
Do you think Garoppolo will be back by week 5, or do you think they'll go with?
I've done probably 3 or 4 of their games in the last couple of years, and I talked to those guys before the game. I talked to Johnny Lynch, and I tried to talk to some of the coaches, and I mean, they really love this guy. They love this young guy. They really do.
Yeah. But the fact that Garoppolo signed with them again.
It's beautiful. It's smart. It's perfect. It fell into place.
Yep.
Nobody expected it. It's great for Jimmy. It's great for Trey Lance.
Yep.
And these guys, they're going to handle it. That young coach is spectacular, and they'll handle it. I just don't know. Here's the crazy thing. The hardest position to project is quarterback, besides covering kickoffs. Right? Believe it. I say that. But let me tell you, I saw guys with all the measurables. They were tough. They were nasty. They had good football instincts. You put them on a kickoff team, you might as well put a blindfold on them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you get under center as an NFL quarterback. Until you do it, none of us will ever know. Yeah. He has all the tools, though.
So, what other teams do you think will be really good this year, and who do you think might surpass expectations? Give me some sleeper teams.
Oh, well, it's funny. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't been asked that question. Haven't really studied much of the people like Miami as a sleeper.
Really?
Really? Well, I'll say this about quarterbacking. Your second, third, and fourth year, that's when you see tremendous jumps. Now, can Tua make that jump? Mm-hmm. And if he can, I really like that coaching staff down there. I don't know if they'll do it this year. If Tua makes the jump, and I like that coaching staff, I could see them doing some great things. I'll tell you who I feel bad for, who is maybe, again, one of my favorite people that I've ever met besides Frank Pace. Ron Rivera is maybe one of my favorite. He is one of the legit greatest people on this planet.
In Washington Commanders.
Yeah, whatever they're like.
I said that derisively.
Yeah, but you know, I think he'll, even if he outcoaches his roster, he'll maybe have a chance at the playoffs. To me, that would be a huge surprise.
Yeah.
You know, I like Denver. I did a Denver game last year. I like what they're doing in Denver. You know, and how about the contracts they're giving these quarterbacks?
Unbelievable.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
right?
Well, like you said, if the owners got to be making it in order to pay it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a good question. Like we should go down that road a little bit just to make sure, because we do have a non-believer. We do have a non-believer in the group, which is the one to the left, Billy. Doesn't necessarily think that players should get paid what they get paid. So could you make a case for that?
I don't have a problem.
do I have to?
I don't have a problem with players getting what they make. I don't have a problem with that. I can remember when Frank and I wrote a book about football called Lamar's Gamble, about the merger of the leagues and how it happened and everything else. And when Namath got $400,000 for 4 years, $100,000 a year, people went nuts. I mean, they thought it was like crazy money. Nobody deserves $100,000. Bob Hope made a joke that he'd be the only guy playing quarterback in a three-piece suit. Because it was crazy money. Now you see second-string guards making $3 million a year.
But that's because third-string owners make quadruple that.
Without a doubt. I mean, I don't begrudge them that. I mean, I don't begrudge the players getting what they can. If the owners couldn't pay it, they wouldn't be paying it. It'd be that simple.
There you go. But don't you think without the players, there is no game.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question to put you on the spot. Gambling. They have a czar now. I mean, the NFL. They expect to make more money from gambling than they do from TV, which is remarkable to me. I was a bookmaker back in the day. I was a closet queen. I mean, you couldn't come out of the closet if you were a bookmaker. You had to do everything clandestine. Now they advertise it on television. It's unbelievable.
You know, the first thing when the players meet with the guys from the league office, the security guys every year, that's the first thing they talk about is gambling.
Wow.
Or at least they used to. That was the ultimate no-no, and I knew nothing about it, wanted no part of it, never got involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's a whole different era. I mean, Vegas, they got a pro team. The Raiders are in Vegas. There was a time that was the only game you couldn't get a line on. You couldn't get a line in Vegas on the UNLV. In basketball,
let me ask you this: do you think there's any influence on players or coaches?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I think so. I don't think it's the players and coaches. I think it's the referees. I think you can get to a ref. Yeah, I mean, I think the refs control the game. I mean, let me put it this way: back in the day.
Okay, see, this is where you and I are going to disagree.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because no, I have. Look, referees are not my favorite thing. Okay. It's like the first rule of special teams. It's only illegal if you get caught. Okay, so whatever you can do, just don't get caught. But I know personally a lot of officials, personally, and I've gotten to know them over the years, personally. And there is no freaking way any of them would have anything to do with gambling.
Really?
No way.
Well, would you say that about the NBA? I think a lot of.
I don't know anybody in the NBA.
No, I know.
The only guys I know in the NBA that I've been around a little bit, guys like Bill Walton.
Bill, I ran into Bill last week at breakfast, and he introduced himself because I was with Artis Gilmore, and he came over and he introduced myself as, "Hi, my name's Bill. The second L is silent."
And then, hey, he's the only guy that talks more than me. He say, "Hi, Bill," and then a half hour later, he's like, "Hey, great talking to you, Bill."
It's really good to hear you say that you know the referees and there's no way they have anything with gambling.
No way.
Impeccable. Wow. But tell me something. When I see a call like defensive holding on the interior line, what is defensive holding on the interior line? I mean, it's defensive holding every play. No.
For me, the problem has always been you're human, you're gonna err, and the game is so freaking fast. People, you see it on a flat screen or from a stands 100 yards away. When you're down on the field, it is warp speed, and these guys are asked to make ridiculously hard calls at tough times. And in real time. So
Yeah.
when I go back and frame by frame look at, I can't even tell sometimes.
Yeah.
And they're making tough calls. I've got nothing but respect.
Wow. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when they do it in slow motion, they'll show you a play 15 different angles and do it over and over again. And you still can't call it. You'll say, well,
they're human.
Yeah.
They're going to make mistakes, you guys. But that's crap. Gambling, refs, no.
Wow.
All right, well, that's
Wow.
good to
Put it
hear.
to rest.
That's cool. I mean, I'd like to hear from somebody who's down on the field, that's for sure. I'm always observing through heavy lenses. You're not going to get me down on the field.
Hey, I like you guys' setup, by the way. Did you see the stuff behind me?
Yeah, I can't make it out, but it looks great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get something for you.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm gonna give you a story. Okay. I'm gonna give you a quick story. Notice the picture. That's a picture of Fouts and you see it. That's Fouts and Charlie Joyner.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then from the 50th anniversary all-time team. Then there's an album up there called The High Five, which might be the worst album ever made. We had so much fun with it in our locker room. Check this out. The High Five, featuring Kellen Winslow. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Velvet, Leroy Jones.
Wow.
Smooth, Charles D. Journay. Mean Fred Dean, and J.J. John Jefferson.
Wow.
They put out an album. The worst part about it is I bought this son of a because it was constantly being played in our locker room. I've never opened it and or listened to it.
Or will you?
But actually, if somebody wants to do it, have a fun, you guys need to do it. Research The High Five. It's called The Other Side of Us, and check out the signs. I end up getting like 30 game balls or some stupid thing, right? They say you never forget your first. This is my first game ball.
Wow.
Okay? If you can read that.
Put it
Trying
in
to
the
get-
center.
Put it in the center.
Put it right in front of your mug.
left.
Put it in front of your
left.
face.
There you
Put it
go.
right in
And
front of
then
your mug.
Now hold it up.
Yeah.
There you go.
First,
Now I can't read it.
but first TD as a pro, 15-yard pass from D. Fouts.
Dead Fouts.
Hank dedicated this ball to his mother, Betty Bauer, in memory of his father, Hank Bauer. Chargers 37, Browns 14.
San Diego, 1977.
That's great.
So I got to tell you, the backstory is why it's so meaningful. And I had everybody's name put on it. And my mom, so the backstory is, I'm like this stupid rookie and not playing any offense. And my dad passes away on a Monday up in Northern California. So I fly up. I don't tell anybody. I tell the head coach. Tuesday's a day off. He says, why don't you fly up and just, when is the funeral? So I flew up Monday after practice, was up there Tuesday, north of Sacramento, with my family, and made arrangements for that next Saturday was the service up there. And didn't tell anybody. Flew back Tuesday night, practiced Wednesday, because I was a rookie, I was surviving. And practiced Wednesday and Thursday. After practice Thursday, flew back up there. The head coach was the only guy that knew. Tommy Prothro, I think it was at the time, was the only guy that knew. And I asked him not to tell the team anything. Well, Friday we go to practice, and I'm up there with my family. We're burying my dad, Hank Bauer Sr. And I'm out of practice, and we're sitting up in our crappy little place we lived, and we're just sitting there, and it's Saturday morning, and we get a knock on the door, and think about, guys didn't make a lot of money, and my mom, we didn't have much. They found out, they said, well, where's Hank? He's not here. The coach explained to him I was at my dad's funeral, and I hadn't said anything all week. They got together, passed the hat, and sent my mom up $5,000.
Wow.
At the time, it was.
That's nice.
That's incredible.
So I'm crying, and I'm going, we're playing the Cleveland Browns the next day. And I practiced Wednesday, Thursday. They said, I called the coach, I said, Coach, can I play tomorrow? He goes, if you can get here by the meeting time, which is 9 o'clock at the hotel in San Diego, you stay overnight at home, you can play. So I barely made it, went to the meeting, got up, I was exhausted, mentally exhausted, hadn't played any offense in the regular season. They put me in on a designated shovel pass, and I hadn't played any offense, and I scored my first touchdown.
Wow.
Nice.
And I get in there, so you can imagine the range of emotions. And I never knew if I'd ever get a game ball, ever, or if I'd get another one, much less 30. And they gave me the game ball.
That's
I immediately went to Doc Brooks. Doc, would you do something special for me? And this is what the kind of guy Sid Brooks is. And he put every teammate's name, you know.
Wow.
And it's just pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
That's great.
for sure.
So
Talk about going the extra mile, huh? Brooks was the kind of guy who went the extra 10 miles.
Did you read his book?
you get it. You get it.
Did
Well, you know what they say in the service? If you need something done, call a sergeant. You need something done in the Navy, call a chief.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you read his book?
You need something done in football, call the equipment guy.
Yeah. Did you read his book?
I did.
It was a funny book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny book.
What was it called? Do you remember?
I don't know.
But believe me, it had his name in it.
A bit of a hand, you said.
Oh,
a bit of a hand.
A bit
It
of a
was the
hand.
best.
Well,
He's the
Hank,
best.
I got
thanks.
a couple questions.
Billy,
Derek's
Derek's got a
couple
question for you.
I got
All
two
right.
questions. We don't want to hold you that long, but first question is from your era.
Okay, look at this is what I tell young people. Wait, stop right there.
Yeah.
This is advice I give the young people.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
don't
that
think you should, don't.
young. No, I
I
should.
tell young people all the time when you get into these situations, oh, should I have that next beer? And well, should I flirt with that guy? I'm in the club. If you don't think you should, if you're not wondering, going, yeah, but no, don't.
Well, I think that
You don't get, if you don't think you should,
no, I should.
okay,
Should.
there you go.
Okay, so assemble. What's the best team from your era? So let's say if the span of a decade, you can choose whenever. So and the best team from modern day era in the last decade.
Well, modern day to me, it's not even close. The run that the Patriots made was unreal.
Okay,
I don't know if it's ever going to be matched.
got it. And so I guess so. Then the answer to that question, if those two teams played, then definitely the Patriots.
Well, yeah, I didn't tell you the team from my era.
Oh, okay, all right.
And you didn't tell
My
me.
era.
And you have to say whose rules would you play by also.
Okay.
I play by Jack Tatum's rules if I were playing.
Right.
Of course. If it's only illegal if you get caught.
Right.
The rule.
Assassin.
In my lifetime, in my playing era, I'd have to say the success of the Cowboys, but since they cut me on my birthday, screw them. The dynasty of the Redskins, I think, was pretty strong. With Joe Gibbs, those guys. You could all of the great runs that the teams have made. Raiders had some great runs. You know what the worst part? The worst part of looking in the mirror for me is if I could have played for any other team, it would have been the Raiders.
Whoa.
Isn't that sad? It's like, I wanted to be arrested. Take me to prison, please. I want to be one of those guys.
That's fantastic.
So, I don't know, in those eras, I mean, it's hard to argue with the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Some great teams, without a doubt. Some great teams.
Roger Staubach, too, by the way. Briefly, I was in camp with him. I'll tell you how I got cut. You want to know how I got cut?
Yeah.
Sure.
I figured, okay, I didn't get drafted. I had 10 teams call me within the first half hour of the draft. Cowboys sent a guy out with me that night, out to find me at my apartment, gave me $1,000 cash. And I said, F you guys, I can make your effing team. I know what you got at running back. They're here. I see those guys. Well, I didn't know that they drafted 2 running backs. So I was like, there were like 17 running backs. I was like probably 14th, right? We get to camp. We go to play in a scrimmage against the Chargers up at UC Irvine. The 2 rookie running backs start crapping their helmets. They don't know their assignments. They're fumbling the ball. Dan Reeves was the running backs coach. Dicker was the special teams coach. Landy was the head coach. Dan says to me, he goes, Hank, I know you've been playing halfback. Do you know all rules for fullback? And I said, yeah. So I played fullback in both positions for this entire scrimmage against the Chargers. Gained 140 yards, scored like 4 touchdowns. I'm in the team bus going back to training camp, and Roger Staubach's sitting right in front of me going, Hank, that was amazing. You're going to be a great teammate. 4 days later on my birthday, knock, 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 go see Coach Landry after breakfast, bring your playbook. What the? Are you crapping me right now? And so they said, we think you could play, but we're going to cut you early. We're going to keep the drafted guys, and we want to give you a chance to catch on. Well, I didn't catch on. I woke up the next day in my brother's garage in Oxnard.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so I waited all year long. And I worked out and held on to my dream. And the Chargers called me. I got my old Volkswagen Bug. They needed a running back for training camp. I was 128th guy signed of 128 guys. I was like the 12th running back of 12 running backs. And I walk in and I'm balding and I'm white and I'm not big. And I'm from a small school and I've just gotten caught. But you know what? Every guy in that locker room said to me, we remember when you kicked our ass last year in that scrimmage. How in the hell did you do it? Look at you.
Whoa.
And I fought and I hit everybody when I wasn't supposed to. And I survived the first day to the second day to the first preseason game to the 6th preseason game. Ended up making the roster. And then the next thing you know, you're player of the year in the league. And here I am 47 years later. I wouldn't trade my journey for anything. I wouldn't have handled success had I not experienced failure early.
That's great.
Words to live by.
That
Words
is
to live.
great.
Hank, thank you
Fantastic.
so much for being with us. You've been a great friend. We'll have to.
Always, man. Great to see you, man.
We'll have to get out Ricky Schloss. We'll have to tee it up and go play sometime. By the way, do you ever see Little Charlie?
All the time.
Give him my best.
Charlie
I will do that.
He's the best. He is the
You talk
best.
about he's retired and he plays golf every day,
Does he?
and he's doing great. You want a Charlie Joyner story?
Sure.
Sure.
Charlie and I, God, where were we going? I had to drive. Oh, it was a function in LA, and it was a function in LA, and I was driving up, and it was a Charger function, and so I picked Charlie up. It was a golf outing. Charger with Justin Herbert, by the way, met him for the first time. As good a kid this kid is the real deal. He is amazing. He's amazing.
By the way, when you finish it, I want to ask you a Charger question. But,
Okay, so Charlie and I are in the car, right? And we're talking and we're talking about, making it and all that stuff. And I'm talking about Charlie. We drove by a Del Wiener Sitzel, right? Going through Long Beach, going to the golf course. And I look, I go, Charlie, that was my first job. 15 years old, West Anaheim, $1.25 an hour. Worked my ass off, 40 hours. And people yelling at me, I wanted onions on my mustard dog. I said, I'm getting my college education. F this. I'm going to be a professional, right? $1.25 an hour. Took home less than $40 in my first week. And I said, at that point, I made a decision to be a scholar athlete. Charlie looks at me and starts laughing. Charlie grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. You know how hot and humid it gets in Lake Charles, Louisiana?
Derek's from
Okay.
Mississippi.
Charlie Joyner hitchhiked 40 miles when he was 14 years old to pick cotton.
Oh,
Whoa, man.
75 cents an hour when he was 13 or 14 years old. Unbelievable.
He's a humble, great gentleman.
And now here he is, Pro Football Hall of Famer, as good a person as you would ever mind. And again, because of that work ethic. I'm telling you, in his 18th year, he was the first guy on the practice field before the stupid kickers and the last guy to leave every day.
Yep. And when he retired, he was #1 in most receptions in NFL history. Charlie Jordan, number 18. Now, for my...
You know what? Here's another thing about Charlie. Charlie started with the Houston Oilers.
Yep.
Did you even know what position he played?
If he didn't play receiver...
No, he's never. He played a year, I think a year and a half at corner before he switched to wide receiver.
Yeah, because the cornerbacks couldn't catch the ball. So when they found out he could catch the ball, they moved him to receiver. The Charger question, I'm glad you brought it up. How did you feel when the Chargers moved to LA? You must have felt like you lost a piece of your leg.
Well, think of it. 7 years as a player, 4 years as a coach, 18 years as the radio broadcaster.
Wow.
That's 29 years of traveling on Chargers, being a part of that family. Here's the way I feel. I feel like I'm a kid. Now I know what kids feel like whose parents get divorced. You love both of your parents, your mom and your dad. You will always love both of your parents till your day you die. My mom is now shacking up with some guy that's not my dad. My dad is San Diego. I love San Diego. I still live here. I love San Diego. This is my home. That's where I played. That's where I made my name. That's where I anchored for 15 years on Channel 8. That's where I did all these things. But my mom's shacking up and married and happy, so I'm happy for her. But I want nothing to do with my stepdad, because that's not my real dad, but I'm trying to like him.
Well, have they made any over?
Not my real dad. Does that explain how I feel?
That's a perfect.
Could be a better analogy.
I'll always be a Charger till the day I die, and I'm proud to be a Charger, and I'm rooting for him every time.
Has your stepdad made any overtures to get you and guys like little Charlie and Dan in the fold? They've gone with more recent guys, for their broadcasts and things like that. I'm winding down. I'm not going to do as many games this year on national radio. I'm kind of winding it down. I'm not looking to work. 47 years is enough, isn't it? Yeah.
By all means. And I tell you what, the amount of determination that you showed, what you had to do to get there, and you summed it up really earlier in the broadcast when you said, Billy, I like to eat. And that's what it took. When you're getting paid that, you like to eat.
The other thing, Billy, I loved it when people told me I couldn't do something.
Yep.
Or when somebody looked at me and said, you're from a small school? You're not very big. You're not very fast. You're not this. You're not that. You're really white. That's the one that really pissed me off. Really white. Look at you're white. I mean, can you get canceled for saying that? I guess
not on this show. Not on this show.
First of all, I didn't say it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And I hate it. I don't see color. I see people. I see teammates.
Yeah.
I see you as a good person or not a good person. Great teammate or not a great. I don't give a crap where you came from, what you look like. Certainly not the color of your skin.
Lovely.
Well, Hank, you've been
great guest.
A treat.
Just great.
You've been a treat. And let's get together again soon, because another 36 years shouldn't go between conversations.
Hey, thank you for your service too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Really,
I appreciate that.
One more real quick thing.
Yeah.
The question I get asked most often is, what's the biggest highlight for you of your career? Wasn't a run, it wasn't a play, it wasn't a game ball, it wasn't anything. I got invited to go on a USO trip to visit troops after my second year. And we spent a month in the Far East. Myself, Joe Klecko, John Kolb, and Matt Blair. And we visited troops all over Japan, Okinawa, Philippines, Taiwan, Korea, We flew out to aircraft carriers. We were in the northern training area in Okinawa. We were at the DMZ, up in the tracking station overlooking North and South Korea. We got to see the world as very few people get to see it. And then I was blessed and got asked to go back. And that was 30 days of our off season, which is a very small, that's a very small gesture when in comparison to, what the troops are actually giving up, right? The next year I got invited to go on the trip again. And Efren Herrera and Bob Brzezinski joined Matt Blair and I, and we went to Spain, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and Germany, visited troops all over the Med. God bless our troops. The sacrifices they make, no one will ever know. That's why I always like to wear something with the flag on it. Those 2 USO trips were life-changing for me. I know we're having trouble in our country right now. We have had for a while. Even as bad as it gets, you got to see the rest of the world to understand this is the greatest place on the planet. And only because of our freedoms. And our freedoms are only ensured by our troops. So God bless you guys.
Well said.
That's very, very, very well said.
Thanks, Hank.
Thank you so much,
Be well.
Hank. Thanks.
Right.
Stay well, my brother.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Great guest. Just a great
guest, huh?
Oh, he's so animated. His eyes are terrific. Every time he zooms in with the drugs. His eyes are terrific. Just a great guest.
Well, that's great.
You feel like you know him for all your life.
I felt like I've talked to him just yesterday.
Yeah,
It's been
it's
36
amazing.
years.
When you said you had talked to him in 36 years, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's
like,
crazy.
Yeah.
Pick right up like he grew up with him.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Well, I think that's as good a show as we can do. So
Yeah,
let's
we
say
don't have
goodnight.
We don't have anything to say after that. Just check out Lamar's Gamble if you want to know what really happened with the merger.
And combustible, and if these lips could talk, available on amicamookanamike.com.
Yes. And thank you very much for looking in. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you. See ya.
Take care.
Next week's guest, author of On the Meter Off Broadway, 40 years as a New York City cab driver, John McDonough.